Shout out, folks. It's Bobby O'Rucker here. Redbeard and I and the rest of the Shout Out team wish you a happy Friday before what we hope is a great weekend for you all. And we have a great show for you today with fellows from the tribe sharing pearls of wisdom to help you with ideas for your own plan of action. Hey, do you have shameless plugs for events happening in your area? Let us know. We're all about getting the good word out. And so just a few opportunities before we get started today. Check these out and share the flyers from the show notes. March 14th, Arkansas Central Office presents The Stage. March 28th kicks off Arkansas Sober Fest Golf and runs through October. April 16th through the 19th is an Arkansas AA convention. This one is the 49th annual Springtime in the Ozarks in Eureka Springs. No flyer for this one, so check out springtimeintheozarks.com. And finally, June 20th, Arkansas Sober Fest Picnic at the VFW in Cabot, Arkansas. Hey, you know we don't like talking about the buck bucket, but it helps with expenses and absolutely $0 goes to any member of our team. We're all volunteers and this is our community service. However, we need your support raising funds for small and some not so small things like business cards, equipment upgrades, and technology. Friends, all we desire to do is get hope to the hurting. Your donations helps us to do just that. Hit the donation link on, I think it's just called donate, on shoutoutfromthepit.com and drop a bucket for the cause. A buck here, a buck there helps us to improve your show and to boldly go where no intelligent human being would dare to enter. And we love your feedback. Y'all sincerely bless us and let us know we're on the right track. The Shout Out team thanks you so much for listening to the show and you're boosting my tiny ego. Please keep sending suggestions on how we can improve your show. And this is your show, the People's Show, a platform where your message can be heard and shared with people looking for hope and good news. We want to share your story, how you overcame your hurt, your habit, your hang up, and what you do to maintain a healthy, happy life today. Contact us at shoutoutfromthepit.com. We're looking forward to meeting you and sharing your story with us and the world. And be sure to grow. Man, guys, it's Friday. And you know I need to drink more water here. Watch this. Yeah, we're raw and uncensored. So take two and be sure to join our growing family of optimistic folks on Facebook. It's only a couple of weeks old and we're learning the social media ropes, so please show us some grace. We went social media because, like many of you, we're tired of the stuff that negatively turns us into flesh-eating monsters. Well, you know what I mean. The Shout Out team thrives on positive, optimistic, happy, joy stuff. We like funnies, memes, good news stories, and anything that brightens the day and shares hope. So be sure to subscribe, like, and share with a friend. Shout Out from the Pit on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you listen to the show. You'll get Diane's missives full of awesome tools and encouragement, daily insights from the Shout Out team, and episodes designed to edutain as you trudge the road to happy destiny. And as Ralph says, it's for free and for fun. And folks, details aside, please keep us in your prayers. We strive to bring you good stuff, and sometimes we ourselves have challenges and hard times. One of our beloved team members just lost her mother, and our hearts and prayers are with her. I'm not good with words in situations like this, but I know that God knows my heart and is with our sister right now. So please just lift up our teammate in your prayers with the thoughts the Spirit gives you. Thank you. And if you need prayers, please let us know at shoutoutfromthepit.com. Yeah, a few of us are nutty like that, and we love to pray. When I think about it, I'm pretty sure where we're at right now in life because of the prayers lifted up for us and paying it forward. That's just all right with us. So again, happy Friday. It's Bob the Old Rucker, and we have another great show for you today. So here's what to expect from this episode. The tribe is back with OpenMic, talking about a blog titled Working the 12 Steps in Recovery, 5 Things to Know. These fellows share their insights learned during their journeys, and we hope those pearls of wisdom help you as well. Humble reminder, these raw and uncensored recovery episodes are about real people with real struggles and real solutions. And now, on with the show. Hey, shout out, folks. It's Bob the Old Rucker coming at you raw and uncensored. And as always, only God knows what's going to happen on this show. Welcome to Shout Out from the Pit, where the host sucks, but the guests are awesome. I'm the host, and Redbeard, my friend, partner, and producer, is the brains behind the scenes and couldn't join us tonight. So in the comment section, give him a shout out. Tell him you love him and miss him. All right, so we got some folks joining us today. I'm going to introduce them, and then we'll all give a shout out together. The first one I want to hit is Pat. You guys know Pat, returning guest. And we got Jeremy, returning guest, actually one of the hosts. Sloan, his episode, I don't even know what episode you are. Charlie, your show, we're going to be doing your show here, help me out, the 10th? The 10th, okay. And Joel, we just released your show over winter holiday. And joining us for the first time, but not new to the tribe, is Brian. All right, so y'all give a shout out. Hey,
shout out.
Hello.
All right. So I usually do an icebreaker, one of those, hey, did you know? So I'm going to spare the audience and just skip that tonight. And, okay, no applause, guys. Come on. I'm going to go into what we call open mic topical. And these are some subjects that have been on my mind. And I want to get some insight from the tribe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it out there. And then let's just see where we go from there. Is that all right with you guys?
Sure.
All right.
Great.
So we don't. Oh, the other thing is, if you have some insight and you want to share it, this isn't romper room. Just step up to a mic and talk. We're all gentlemen here. So, all right. This is an article called "Working the 12 Steps in Recovery: 5 Things to Know." So I have to give a shout out to the author. Andrea H, whoever you are, from mybreakthrough.com. This came out in October of 2025. Redbeard's probably going to remind me to send him the link so he can put it in the show notes so we don't, get in any trouble. All right, so here we go. She writes, in recovery circles, it's common to hear someone say they're working the steps. But what does that actually mean? For many, working the 12 steps in recovery begins as a structured path, something to complete with a sponsor, journal about, and discuss in meetings. Yet as time goes on, true healing happens when those steps stop being a checklist and start becoming a way of life. Working the steps isn't just about doing the work, it's about living the work. It's about taking personal responsibility, practicing honesty, surrendering what we can't control, and turning spiritual principles into daily action. So she's got 5 truths here. And Andrea, mad respect, we're going to come up with our own definitions of these 5 steps in addition to what you have. I'll put what you have in the show notes. First step, she says, first truth of the 5 truths. Step work begins with brutal honesty. Open mic, guys, jump in.
That's what I was going to ask. So you're wanting my opinion on that?
Roger that.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think step work begins with the amount of honesty that I can have at that particular point in time. Brutal honesty is sometimes not what's needed, especially if I am not talking with my sponsor and I'm talking with other people. I do not need to be brutally honest. I do not agree with that.
Okay.
as honest as I can possibly be at that particular point in time.
Andrew, if you're one of us, we know you're sensitive, so don't take it to heart. This is open mic. These are just our thoughts.
Charlie.
Okay, I'm Charlie. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Bob. I do believe that honesty is definitely one of the foundations of working, being able to work the steps in the program. I say this all the time, that God works in my life when I'm being honest. He does not work in my life whenever I'm being dishonest. And so I've had to learn that a lot of times. Jeremy kind of touched on it. If I'm, I can open up to, when he said it reminded me, I open up to people sometimes about some of my problems, but I don't ever talk to my sponsor about it. And that's kind of me taking a back door to honesty, thinking, well, I'm telling people, but, I'm not really telling the person that knows me the best and can help me the most. I'm just trying to fiddle my way through it the best I can at that moment. Sometimes my honesty it surprises me, and then sometimes it disappoints me. So I do the best I can today, and carry on from there. So I'll share this little story real quick about where honesty really showed itself for me, and how it improved my life and taught me how important honesty was I was about to go into a rehab, and excuse me, the insurance company wasn't going to cover me going into rehab because all I did was smoke some weed. And so I had a choice to make, and so I was at the time I was at Bridgeway Hospital, and I felt like I was going crazy. So I was seeing a psychiatrist, and she told me, since insurance wasn't going to cover it, that when I left that facility to go take at least one drink.
Great advice.
Yeah, that's the worst advice a doctor has ever given me. I had other people telling me, look, man, it's the insurance company. They screw us around all the time, man. Just lie to them. Get what you need, But I had a moment of clarity where God paralyzed the liar in me just long enough for me to see the truth. And what I saw and what I heard was revealed to me that day was, I'm about to start on this program of recovery again, and I don't need to start it with a lie. And so I told the insurance company all I did was smoke weed, and they said, okay, we're not going to cover it. So I had applied for some different recovery centers here in Central Arkansas, and the only one that had a bed open was only the one I didn't want to go to, because I've been servicing their facility for a while now, and I knew everybody that worked there, and I was trying to go everywhere but there, but it was the only place that had a bed. So I put my application in, and the intake gentleman that got my application, he saw it, and he told me later, he said, when I looked at it, I thought, well, this is not the Charlie that we all know and love, but he did his research, and it wasn't me. So he took the application to the owner and told her that insurance is not going to cover it. And he said, is there something we can do? And she said, I want you to discount his bill $10,000, let him work the other $2,500 off with his business, and get him in here. And now, if I had lied to the insurance company, I would have never received that blessing.
Wow, that's a good story.
It just proved to me that honesty works.
Okay.
Thanks, Charlie.
Wow. Yeah, that's...
How do you follow that?
How do you follow that? Right.
Mic drop. Bye, Charlie.
Yeah.
Bye, Charlie. That's a good 5 minutes.
Okay, I can leave.
Good story, Charlie.
Okay, so when it comes to honesty and working the steps, you guys know me, but the audience doesn't. So, I've got over 30 years of sobriety, just not at the same time. And the number one reason is because of lack of honesty. And you guys all know that one of the reasons that I'm so death on humility and showing, how to be humble is because I didn't know how. I'm still working on it. I don't have any problems admitting it, because you guys helped me to stay the course, because now I'm honest. With each and every one of you, you've heard me say, helped me with my ego, check my pride, because I know what happens when I lie. I went out because I would not open up to anybody. I had to have the answers to everything. I had to be that guy. You know, if Brian, if you said you caught a 2-pound bass, I caught a 5-pound bass. I hate even thinking about that guy that used to exist. And the reason I bring it out now is because if you're that guy, I would ask you to drop the rock, get with some people and take baby steps and step out of yourself to, Charlie, can you open the door for Danny? Because it caused me to go back out and drink. Now, on the surface, going back out and drinking is just words. What it did to me when I went back out, help me out, guys. Incomprehensible, demoralization. What is the line?
Pitiful.
Say it in the mic.
Pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization.
Yeah, well, I experienced that when I went out. So coming back in was very humbling for me after having a number of years. And honesty didn't happen right away because I didn't realize at that point that was my problem, just to be fair. I kept my mouth shut because I felt like, what am I going to do? Tell you how to work your program when obviously mine failed? So I kept my mouth shut for a long time and didn't even tell anybody that, hey, I had some time. But when I did get honest, it was the most amazing feeling because I was a liar. I was, and Jeremy, you said it on your show. It just sounded better to tell a lie than to ever tell the truth or something. I'm paraphrasing you. And well, that's one of the reasons, like you and I have so much in common. But that resonated with me when you said it, because it's not that I couldn't tell the truth. I wouldn't, right? I just didn't want to. So anyway, I don't want to hijack this.
So this is Jeremy, and I want to go back because I was very blunt with that answer that I gave, right? And here's the honest, and it was very blunt and very honest, right? But here's the honest thing, right? I'm having a shitty day. Like, I don't want to be here right now. This is the last thing that I want to be doing is sitting in this chair talking about anything. It's just been a shit 2 weeks, right? And it just got worse today, right? But I do believe that honesty for me is the key to my life every single day. But I do want to go back to, I do believe that there is a difference between brutal honesty and rigorous honesty, right? So we're talking two different things, right? Whenever I'm rigorously honest, I know that I have done something or there is something going on in my life, and I rigorously seek out my sponsor or another man in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to have that conversation with and honestly talk about what's going on in my life today or what I have done that I am now emotionally unsober over that I have to go back and fix. Brutal honesty is whenever I do something to Joel, I go back, or Joel does something to me, I go back and I'm brutally honest with Joel about all of his faults and all the things that have happened, right? And all of the stuff that's happened in my life. Or when I'm brutally honest with my parents about things that happened with me in my life, that's what good is it going to do my mom and dad to know that at this point, right?
Yeah.
And am I going to cause more damage or more harm to somebody by being honest in that moment? Or should I just be rigorously honest with my sponsor and just have that conversation, right? So that's where I think I find that distinction, right? Maybe it's a play on words. Maybe we're talking the same thing as, maybe she's talking the same thing. But to me, that's where my mind goes, right? Is there's two different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I like that. Brutal versus rigorous. Yeah.
This is Brian. What?
I broke my own rule. I wasn't speaking to the microphone.
No, I agree with you. I mean, rigorous honesty, because that's what it tells us to do us in the book. It never says be brutally honest because, we have been brutally honest and it usually hurts people's feelings. I 100% agree with you. Rigorous honesty, however, is what we need when we come in the program. because, and if you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to be honest with anybody else. We have to, we've all come to that point where we had to get honest to go, we are alcoholics. We are addicts in some shape, way, or form. Doesn't matter what it is. We had to be honest. I mean, that's straight up. And then we start working the steps. And that is the first step. And now, granted, I agree with you. You're not going to come out and just blast everything out the very first day you come in. I mean, hell, it may take you months before you get to that. If your sponsor wants you to write out your life story, trust me, you find out a lot more truths about yourself. But that's why we work the steps in succession. We don't start with step 4. We don't start with step 9. We start with step 1 with admitting we were alcoholics. That's a set of honesty. And that's being rigorous honest, because nobody wants to admit we got a problem until we get into the program. And then look what happens. We're sitting in a cave chit-chatting. Honest to God, I waited 4 hours after my appointment just to be here. I didn't want to go home, because if I went home, I wouldn't come back, mainly because I can't afford it. But I mean, I'm glad to be here. Granted, first show, but when you texted us this morning, I was like, yeah, I'll be there. I got to be in Little Rock anyway.
Glad you're here. And welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Sloan. I think that when we first come into the program, I know for me, honesty was not one of my strong suits. I was a liar and a cheat, and, I had just made a habit of doing that. And then all of a sudden, you need to get honest. Maybe that's why step 1 is admitting that you're an alcoholic, because that's not easy for a lot of us to do. And I knew it for a long time but I didn't go around shouting it from the rooftops, So I like what Jeremy said at first, as honest as you can be at first, because you come in, you're a total liar. And now they're saying, okay, we want you to be totally honest. Yeah. And usually that's not how it happens with us, So we got to be willing, and we have to have a certain degree of honesty, or we can't move forward. I can attest to that, because I came into the program the first time and I was full of crap, and I was trying to play the system, and I don't even know why I was even going to meetings, but I was full of it, and I didn't get anything out of the program. Well, you get out of this program what you put into it, and a lot of what you put into it is being honest.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good word.
Joel here.
Hey, Joel.
What I've been sitting here thinking, the topic of brutal honesty and that specific verbiage has come up in several meetings that I've been in, and I've never gotten an opportunity to share on it, but it's always struck me. For me personally, I cannot think of my form of honesty within the program as brutal honesty. I have to think of it as rigorous honesty, because there is a very distinct difference to me, kind of touching on what Jeremy said. And I was sitting here thinking, like, if I am being rigorously honest, then I am employing my higher power in some way. I am using that willingness to utilize the relationship with my higher power. And brutal honesty is coming directly from my ego. I'm not consulting with any sort of higher power or any other human to kind of like checkmate my will. And so that's just what I wanted to share on that.
Very insightful.
Top that, Charlie.
Nope, here you go. He's not scared.
Hey, that was great.
That was good, Joe. That was good. I'm one upper and I'm an alcoholic. As everybody was sharing, it had me thinking about half truths. That I really strive to be honest, and but before I went into business for myself, I had this guy that had been a business owner before, and he told me, he said, Charlie, when you go into business for yourself, you're going to have to lie to people. And I said, man, I don't buy into that, and I'm not going into it with that premise of that's something I need to incorporate into my business practices. And so I didn't buy into it, but then I found myself in situations where if I told the truth, if I was rigorously honest with customers, it would make us look bad. And so this is kind of an example of what I tend to do in business sometimes is, if I double booked or something, or we can't make a certain appointment on time, like it was scheduled for, instead of telling the customer, being rigorous, honest, and say, hey, I double booked or whatever other circumstance it might be. I'll say things like, well, we had a truck breakdown. Well, the truth is the truck's been broke down for 6 months.
Minor detail.
But I didn't lie. But I didn't lie to them, see? And so I can sleep at night somewhat with that. But, half truths. And I tell my guys all the time, I said, they come up with these things and they're going to lie to the customer. I said, we're not going to lie to them. But then you have to be creative and really, and I'm not trying to deceive them either. But I really put a lot of thought into what I say, so that I don't lie and that I'm not, just misrepresenting, what I'm trying to do with my life. I do a better job than that, really, about what I say than what I just explained, but that's not far from the truth either, really. So, but I do put a lot of thought into what I say. And it kind of goes back to what Jeremy was sharing a while ago, about brutal honesty. It reminds me, I heard somebody say one time, before I speak it, I ask myself 3 things. Is it kind? Is it true? And is it necessary? And those are good things to think about before I open my mouth and vomit out some stuff that might hurt somebody just to make me feel better.
Wow. All right. I don't want to take a poll to see if he won up Joel, so we're just going to move along.
I just want to make one observation that we learned a new word tonight, so we can all go home and rest well. Creative honesty.
That's good.
Or creative truth.
Yeah.
That's great. And you can never get that truck fixed now.
Well, Ralph, and the audience has heard Ralph before. Of course, he's not here tonight. But, I heard him say, I've heard it lots of times, but it resonates when I hear it, because maybe I heard it for the first time from him, where it resonated, was that no is a complete sentence. And, I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is because of creative honesty. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I don't know how it's going to go over. I'm not a people pleaser today, but I am sensitive to people's reactions. I'm not trying to lose friends. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm trying to be me. But at the same time, I'm trying to be a diplomatic guy today, because that's what, the program has taught me. So learning to say no. And the reason I say this is because exercising it when somebody really wants me to do something, instead of coming up with creative truth or whatever, just being able to say, no, it's not going to work for me. And I know back in the day, and you guys know where I'm going with this, when I'd ask somebody to do something and say, I will try to do it, you already know they're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. And then I heard one of the most infamous or famous lines come from, the Jedi Knight Yoda. There is no try. There's only do or do not. Brian, how would you say that if you were Yoda? No. Okay.
I got a thought on that. When you were sharing that, there were words I had to take out of my vocabulary when I got in this program, and those words were, I'll try, I could, I ought to, I should, things like that. Today it's I will or I won't. Because anytime, if I tell you I'm going to try, or if I tell you I ought to do that, I'm not going to do it.
I'm something when you were just talking about that, Charlie, that makes me think of something else. So there was an interview that Matthew McConaughey did, and he's talking about whenever he's a kid, right? And he's being, raised by his father, and he's being told, how to do things and how to be a man and how to grow and all of these things. And you'd have to go back and find it. It's really great. But the moral of all that is that, he goes in and he's trying to start the lawnmower, and comes back in, he tells his dad, I can't do it. And his dad gets mad and he says, what did you say? He said, I can't do it. And he says, we don't use the word can't. He said, are you sure you're just not having a little trouble? And I don't know, whenever I heard that, like, I've always been a big fan or a big proponent of, we don't use the word can't, because the second I say that I can't do anything, I absolutely cannot do something, because you can do whatever you want to do. Like, you're going to struggle with it. It may take a while to get through it. And you know what? Sometimes you may never get through it. But as long as you have the attitude of, I can't, you're right, you can't. If I can, I can. But if I can't, you're absolutely correct. You cannot do it.
Guess you need to get that drunk fast.
I heard it said one time, to kind of sum up what Jeremy was saying, is a guy said, those who say they can't and those who say they can are both generally right.
All right. So I think, out of fairness to Andrea, I'm just gonna read what she wrote here, and I think I'll do it on the other 4 truths that she talks about here. So she said, again, step 1 or truth 1, step work begins with brutal honesty. I think you guys did a great job of nailing that. So what she says is, real step work starts with truth, not the polished version we tell others, but the one we whisper to ourselves late at night. Honesty is the foundation of the entire recovery process, being truthful about our past, our patterns, and our motives. Step work requires courage to face uncomfortable truths and a willingness to stop blaming others. Until that honesty takes root, the steps remain words on paper instead of a path to freedom. Well said, Andrea. And on this last note, she says daily practice. She says, try ending the day with one question. Where was I honest with myself today, and where was I not? All right, so moving on to her second truth, I'm going to say what it is, and then I'll give her her right on it. She says the truth, too, is surrender isn't weakness. It's the turning point. And then she writes, step work also means letting go of control. Many people in recovery struggle with the idea of surrender, seeing it as giving up. In reality, it's the opposite. Surrender is the act of accepting that our way hasn't worked and being open to something greater. True surrender can't be faked. It shows up in quiet moments of humility, when we admit we don't have all the answers and stop fighting reality. That moment of surrender is where growth begins. All right, open mic.
I really like the way she put that. Very well said. For me, what I've learned is that, the spiritual world is the opposite of the world that we live in out here. And it's always seems to be the opposite, the complete opposite. So out there, to surrender is to lose. But in here, to surrender is to win and to gain. And my moment of surrender, she described it so well. I didn't even know I was doing it. All I know is I quit trying to fight my disease. And I gave up. And what I decided to do was I decided to drink and drug myself to death. That was my decision I made. I didn't realize that was a form of surrender. I quit fighting it. I just gave up. It was shortly after that I did that, I ended up in a straitjacket. And looking back, I believe that God was going, this is the path I got for you. If you'll take it and you'll walk this path, it's your way out. It may not look good right now, but it's your way, and I took it, and here I am today. But yes, to surrender, it reminds me of, it's really kind of off topic, but it's come to my mind several times in here, is I had a moment one time where I was laying in bed and I was praying and meditating about the events of the day before and how they didn't go the way I planned on them going. And so I thought to myself, well, you win some, you lose some. But then I started thinking about what all I had learned in that situation. And so I changed the phrase from you win some, you lose some to you win some, you learn some. And as long as you've learned, you haven't lost. You know? And I guess like you could say I had to surrender to myself to get to that point, you know, to realize that I'm learning in these situations that don't seem so good to me. And I just surrender to God and to God's will and you know, and I learn from my mistakes and from things that happen. And as long as I learned, I haven't lost.
That's good.
That's great, Charlie.
That's good.
Oh, I can't top that. I can't top the way Andrea did it. But I will tell you that being from a military background, surrender is something that we are taught that is a word that is not in your vocabulary. Surrender today to a power greater than myself, a program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship of the men that I surround myself with. And I'm going to come back to that word surround. So I surround myself with sober fellow alcoholics. Surrender is the most courageous act that I can do for not only myself, but for my family and for my loved ones today. That's it, you know. And since I'm a Marine, you know, I want to go to the surround, right? So during the battle, and I looked it up because I wanted to make sure I didn't quote it wrong. During the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir, Lieutenant General Louis Chesty Puller said, "Surrender hell." He said, "We've been looking for the enemy for some time now. We finally found him. We're surrounded." That simplifies things. And so whenever I surround myself with the people that I want to be and want to become and the things that I want in my life, and I surrender to that power to allow that power to work in my life as it surrounds me, then my life begins to change on a daily basis and becomes better than anything else that I could ever even put. Because, you know, Charlie, you talked about it, you know, whenever I'm in control and I'm trying to fight this deal, like everything gets worse and worse and worse until I was eventually surrounded by the disease of alcoholism. Like everywhere I turned, it didn't matter what substance I put in my body. It didn't matter what I tried to fill that hole with, you know, shopping, you know, all sorts of other things and alcohol, right? Didn't matter what I surrounded myself, but I eventually am encapsulated in the center of this ball, and everything around me encompasses the disease of alcoholism. And the only way to get out of that is to surrender to the fact that I'm powerless and I've got to change the way that I'm living on a daily basis.
Very well said, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I know.
He got you, Charlie.
Yes, he did.
Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. For me, the surrender part of it was extremely uncomfortable. You know, my disease will try everything in its power to maintain control of my life, which includes the very unlikely possibility of surrender. And I've shared this on my episode, but if I don't surrender, all I'm trying to do is stay within my comfort zone. And the only thing that's waiting for me in my comfort zone is my alcoholism.
Wow.
And so in order for me to, you know, I come into the program, I look at the joy that everyone else shares in the fellowship, and that's something that I want. But when I first come into the program, that's not something that I can ever see myself having. But that's because my alcoholism is still in control at that point. And unless I take steps that are way outside of my comfort zone, that are extremely uncomfortable for me to do, I'm going to stay wrapped up and surrounded by my alcoholism. And There was something else that came to my mind and that just fluttered away. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I was sitting here thinking about.
Good word.
Good words. I also like what Jeremy said about having a great power in the surrender, because I know the first time I came in, I was not ready to surrender, and it didn't really work for me and all that. Second time I came in, Bob, I think you had to help carry me through the door, and I had that gift of desperation. I was ready, and I know that moment that I got hope that things could get better, and as that was happening, I think I was also surrendering. And something physically washed over me. Like, wow, okay, maybe there is hope for me. Whereas the time before that, for years, I thought there was no hope. This thing's going to kill me. And then it darn near did kill me. And I knew that something had to change. So, that surrender came on when I thought, you know what? I'm out of ideas. What do I do here, guys? And, they said, get a sponsor. I said, okay, well, I need a sponsor. Who do I get? I was like, okay, I'll get one right now. I mean, I was ready. If they would have said, Brett uses this a lot, one of our tribe members, if they would have told me to put on a chicken costume and dance out in the highway and that would cure my alcoholism, I would do it. I was ready to whatever. What do you want me to do? And I was like that up until they wanted me to do the 4-step. And then I went, whoa, what have I gotten myself into? But yeah, that surrender, there's a great burden that's lifted, maybe, that I could say, for me, at least in my personal experience. It was like, okay, I'm ready to listen now. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Excellent.
No, I don't ever try to one up people. I just try to help people. I really, and I hope that what I'm about to say, I can translate in the same way what it means to me. And that is, we all talk about how we all have different paths that we get to hit our bottom. But what I have learned is that we all have one thing in common that makes us reach our bottom. And that is, as Sloan talked about, we become hopeless. That general that Jeremy was talking about, he didn't surrender because he wasn't hopeless. He had hope. But when I became hopeless, that's when I gave up and I quit trying to fight. And so the flip side of that was just a couple weeks after I was hopeless, and they let me out of that straitjacket, and I had a doctor telling me about the disease of alcoholism. And I realized at that point that it wasn't a matter of me being weak or not having enough willpower or anything, is that I was born with a condition that causes me to drink abnormally because I have an abnormal reaction. So an allergy is an abnormal reaction to any food, beverage, or substance. When I put alcohol in my body, I have an abnormal reaction to it, and I can't stop drinking. But when I had that medical professional explaining to me the disease of alcoholism, what he did was he gave me hope. And I can take you to the spot where I was the moment that happened. I never will forget it. And I'd be willing to bet that anybody that's got any length of sobriety can look back and they remember the moment that they first had hope.
Very well said, Charlie.
All right, so you read my mail. We've got 2 Marines in here, Navy CB, and a soldier, and we were indoctrinated with Never Surrender. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Medal of Honor recipient Nicky Bacon. I don't know if that rings a bell to you. He's an Arkansas guy. He's passed away. But I had the honors of introducing him many, many, many years ago. And if my memory, I'm going to paraphrase him, so, forgive me. And Nikki, if you're with us, then forgive me all the way around here. It wasn't about surrender. It was about, he's a Medal of Honor recipient. So he's a steely-eyed killer, Vietnam vet, and something to the effect of real men, get on their knees. And, hearing somebody that Obviously, Medal of Honor recipient doesn't mean jack to civilians. They don't get it. But well, I'm not saying you don't totally get it, but you know what it is. But service members that have especially deployed, mad respect. So, hearing him say something like that and knowing what he meant, some guys are so full of ego, getting on their knees to serve and give gratitude to a higher power is just way beyond their scope of thinking. To hear a man like that say that resonates with somebody like me, because I was already in sobriety and I got it that, the best that I could, because I wasn't the best example at the time, just to be honest, which, Andrea, we just talked about. So we're moving on to something else here. I'm okay with surrender in the context of giving over my will and control. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with surrender in the context of I'm not going to do this fight against for what's right. But if it's wrong and I can't control it, then I get it. I need to surrender, and I have to do that. With my battle buddy today is my wife. I'm glad she's not, and she walked out of the studio a little while ago. I'm so glad. I don't want her to hear this, and hopefully she won't hear it on the show because she'll hold it against me. I have to surrender to her because she is my battle buddy, and there's times when I want to stand my ground. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up this ground, but it's wrong because in some times, very rarely, she is right. And when she is right, I got to give her credit for it. Very rarely. Very rarely. I wonder how many people just turned off the show.
Bob, your wife is a saint, my friend.
Oh no, you drank her Kool-Aid.
Trying to think how I want to put this. So Pat and I were fortunate enough this past, or 2 weekends ago now, we were in Dallas and there's a museum there. It's a Medal of Honor Museum. When you walk into that museum, it takes my breath away to see all of these names on a wall. Now, when you go into the actual main museum itself, right, and now I can't remember the exact numbers, Pat, but it was like 3,800 people total since the creation of the Medal of Honor have been awarded the medal, and it was created in 1865. And, from 1865 to 1867 in the Civil War, 2,400 of those 3,800 were given, right, in that 2-year span. Mm-hmm. And so then when we think about in the context of that, so basically since 1867, so we're talking 150, 170, 180 years, whatever the math is, right? I just can't do the math right. But there's only been roughly 1,000 people that have been awarded that medal. Okay. Now, me and Pat had a conversation in the truck beforehand. I'm humble enough to sit here and say, I don't know if I'd have done what they did, right? When I hear some of these stories, and I can be honest with you and say, I probably would not have, right? I mean, I don't know, right? I wasn't in that situation to have to make that decision. I would hope that I would make the right decision, but I mean, the reality is some of the things that I've gone through in my life, especially in my alcoholism, some of those things were pretty chicken crap things, right? And so would I have done it? I don't know, but I'm not going to sit here with my ego and say that, I'd have done the same thing, because it's just not true, right? But so there's a certain level of humility in surrender. And if I am so egotistical that I cannot surrender, then my humility is going to kill me. My humility is going to kill me. In 2023, everybody's it's been very well documented about what happened to me in 2023. There became a certain level of surrender. I was able to walk into that event from January until, everything that happened on the backside of that without fear. That doesn't mean that I was excited or happy about what was going on, but I was not afraid because I had surrendered to the fact that my fate had been decided and I knew what the outcome was going to be. And it was okay. It was okay. At that particular point in time, no matter what happened, it was okay. And when you get to that level of surrender, you are capable of doing anything. And that is the message that I try to convey to people. When you get to that level of surrender, that no matter what the outcome is in my life, you are capable of doing anything.
Wow. That in the context that you just shared, and I what episode did we do your story on?
30.
Okay, so audience, go back to 30, and you'll get caught up on what Jeremy went through. Freaking miracle. In the context of what you just shared, it kind of coincides surrender with acceptance. Yeah. All right. So Andrea finishes the truth with this daily practice. Notice when you're forcing outcomes. Pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control that I can release instead? All right, so moving on to her third truth, taking responsibility means owning the whole story. Before I read this, can we just take a small break and come back? Are you guys okay with that? All right, we'll take a small break and we'll come back and pick up on third truth. Andrea, shout out to you so far, man. Good stuff. Okay. All right, so here we go. Hey, all right, shout out, folks. We're back. So Andrea's number 3 truth was taking responsibility means owning the whole story. And she writes, the steps guide us to make amends, take inventory, and clean up our side of the street, not anyone else's. I like this. Working the steps deeply means taking responsibility without shame. It's not about self-blame, but self-ownership. It's learning to say, this is mine to carry, and this is not. When people plateau in recovery, it's often because they've done the surface work, the list, the meetings, but not the emotional accountability that brings lasting change. Wow. Well written, young lady, or whatever you are. I have no idea who you are. Open mic, guys. Joel.
What?
Is that a voluntelling?
Well, I got to reread this for a second before I can comment on it.
What do you get to reread?
I'll let you.
Okay,
I'll read it again for everybody. All right. So taking responsibility means owning the whole story. The steps guide us to make amends, take inventory, and clean up our side of the street, not anyone else's. Working the steps deeply means taking responsibility without shame. It's not about self-blame, but self-ownership. It's learning to say, this is mine to carry and this is not. When people plateau in recovery, it's often because they've done the surface work, the lists, the meetings, but not the emotional accountability that brings lasting change. You know, that line that this is not mine, or this is mine to carry and this is not. Shannon brought something down. Shannon brought something down before the show. And she showed me a picture of a dog. This dog's name is Louie. Okay. And the dog belonged to a friend of mine who died from the disease of alcoholism back in August. And his name has come up a lot here lately for different reasons, whatever it is, right? And I've just thought about it a lot. And, then I told you, we lost a dog last week, and he always said, he used to say something, and he had been sober for a really long time, and then he'd gone back out, and then he just struggled from the minute he walked back in until the time that he passed away. Right. It didn't matter whether he was in service, not in service, in the rooms, not in the rooms. He always seemed to struggle. Right. There was just always something, but he just, that line, this is mine to carry and this is not. He always said that whenever it came to taking inventory and defects of character and all this stuff, right, it's like doing an inventory is like cleaning my house. And I take and I put all of my trash out on the curb. But if I stand in the window long enough and I look at my trash out there on the curb, I'm going to find a good reason to go back out there and pick one of those things back up and bring it back in. Oh, I may still need that. I got to get it. I've got to hang on to it. Right. And none of this stuff is mine to carry. None of it. I play a role in it. I absolutely play a role in it. I have to be willing to take actions in my life to get rid of that stuff, right? And to work through that stuff. Like I have to be able to take some actions. I can sit here and I can pray for God to get me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, but unless I walk my ass down to the bus stop, I'm never going to get there, right? Unless I pick up the phone and I call somebody and ask for a ride, I'm never going to get there, right? Just sitting here and hoping that faith is going to carry me through sometimes is not enough, right? I've got to be willing to take some action. And sometimes that action is walking away from that damn window. Do what I've got to do and walk away from the window.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, let me read that again.
Andrea, that one was deep.
It was.
The whole "this is mine to carry and this is not," that's something that I still struggle with a lot. It's tough for me to really put into words, but like before coming into the program, I was used to taking the blame for everything and just assuming that I was always the one that screwed up and stuff like that. And there have been like some pivotal situations in my sobriety. One of them, fairly recently. And I've had to speak with my sponsor about it and all that good stuff and speak with other people in the program about it. But it's still tough for me to really definitively differentiate between what is mine to carry and what is not. And that comes with working someone else's program and working and taking someone else's inventory as well. because I've really been having to focus on only letting the things that are my doing run through my head instead of, oh, well, this person did this. Yes, I feel this way. And yes, I did this, but they did that. And if at any time my thought process gets followed up with but they did this, then I know that I am not as spiritually fit as I could be in that situation, because I am not leaning on my higher power enough. And that's obviously my alcoholism and ego trying to kind of gain some sort of control again. But part of that is the acceptance that I have to come to with having things be exactly the way they're supposed to be in God's world. I can drive myself into the ground, and I can run my brain ragged thinking of all these things, the what ifs, this is my part, but this is their part. And I guess part of this kind of goes into what we were talking about before with surrender. I have to surrender that I can only keep my side of the street clean. And until I'm only able to focus on that, if I'm ever continuing to try to take responsibility for someone else's actions or work an inventory of theirs, then I'm just not as spiritually fit as I need to be in that moment.
Good word.
You know, you really hit on something, because a while ago I had 3 years of sobriety. And because I was close to this man, he passed away. He did commit suicide. And I mean, this man I was close to, he was my go-to guy. I took so much time out of my life just go hang out with him. And when he did his act, like Charlie said, I became hopeless, and I blamed myself. I found every reason under the sun to blame myself. And granted, during that time, I was still sober, and they were about to take his dog away. And his name was Toby. Loved that little crackhead to death. I knew Toby for years. I mean, you know, the 3 years that I was sober, and then the times I even wasn't before, I knew Toby. I'd been, you know, we knew each other. We loved each other. Saw him in a cage. I took that dog. I'm like, I got permission. You know, everybody was happy. I took him home. Well, around November, I got back from seeing my dad. Literally the next day, I came home. I grabbed Toby. The next morning, he passed away. It broke me. I was completely and utterly hopeless. And I went out because I did the only thing I knew how to do. I literally fell back into my alcoholism, and I literally broke. It was a very trying time, and I got away from the program because, I mean, I moved way the hell out, and I stopped coming to, stopped talking to the guys, stopped coming to the tribe meeting, stopped, everything. And it took a while for me to actually, find that balance of not taking on his actions for myself. And yeah, I mean, I had to let it go. I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, I still think about it. It still bothers me. But on the same note, that's not for me to, that's not for me to do. That was his side of the road. I got to let him have it, and I got to move on. And Bob, you actually were a big part of that, conversations we've had in your garage. It was, it was something I literally had to let go of and learn that that's not my side of the street clean. And don't get me wrong, it was hard. I still think about that man. I still love him to death. And there are times my brain wonders because I'm still an alcoholic, and I'm still wondering, still trying to put that blame on myself. But, I come back to the program, and then it reminds me, look, this is, that ain't on you. You got, you got to get out of your head because it hurt. The day I was told, I literally slammed on the brakes on my truck so hard. I literally got a call from my insurance company because they thought I was in an accident. I went from like 70 to 0 in no time flat. And all of a sudden my insurance company's calling me. Other people are calling me, and I'm like, just stop. But it was a very trying time. And honestly, after Toby died, that was the last living piece I had of John to take with me. And when he was gone, demons, I let it all happen. Literally, it was a choice. And I dove right into it because I didn't know what else to do. That no matter how much I wanted to talk, no matter how much I wanted to do this, I put down the phone because, honest to God, I didn't want to hear it. I wanted to waller in my self-pity, and I wanted to have an answer that no one will. Then I had to realize I had to let it go. I went back to the steps. And believe it or not, this program saved my life because of that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
So, when I heard the reading, and one of the things that came to my mind was emotional sobriety, and for me, I think the reason I stick around here is that's really what I'm looking for today is emotional sobriety, and if I can find a reasonable amount of emotional sobriety by working these steps, I don't find it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug to make myself feel better. I wish it was quite that as easy as that, but I can work these steps to the best of my ability, and not bragging, I've put a lot of work into them over the years, and I still find myself with emotional inebriety. I still find myself criticizing myself, beating myself up. I say all the time, if anybody treated me the way I treat myself, I'd kill them.
Right.
And then my other one-liner that I heard somebody share, my favorite speaker said, anytime I'm in a room all by myself, all my enemies are there.
Oh.
I don't need anybody to beat me down. I'm really good at it myself. But I heard a statement this past year that changed my way of thinking and my way of living, because every time I get into that dark cloud, that moment where the darkness, as I call it, I go back to this statement. And the statement was, there is no technical difference in being miserable and thinking about yourself. And so I had to play that out. How does that apply to me in my life? And I started looking at it, and I noticed that every time I am miserable, who do you think I'm thinking about? Period. And so now when I go into those dark places, and I did this just a few weeks ago, this just goes to show you, knowing it and doing it are two different things. I know this. Right around Christmas, I'm standing in my garage. The darkness is coming on. I see it. I feel it. I taste it. I hear it. I know it's coming. And I'm standing in my garage, and I told myself, you have a decision to make. You can continue going down this path, or you can do something to stop it and get better. And I consciously made a decision to go down the dark path. 2 days later, I'm on the psych ward at the Baptist Hospital on Christmas Day because of my thinking, my actions, and my selfishness. And I know better. Why did I do that? The only reason I can tell you is because I'm a selfish, self-centered, egotistical, liar, cheat, and a thief. And all I think about is myself. And when I'm acting like that, that's where it takes me. When I can put myself aside and come up here and show up tonight to try to help somebody else and give somebody else some hope, maybe. I don't feel that way because I'm not thinking about me.
Man, another mic drop. Killing me. We could put a book together on, because I'm about to listen to the show again. You said a few lines. I don't know, you guys already know I capture quotes and I take credit for it. But I went through my quotes the other day.
Honesty.
I went through my quotes the other day, and I have a bunch of them from Charlie. So it's like you do capture some great stuff, and I think I actually put one of them on our shout out Facebook page here recently. It's just, I don't know. You say some pretty profound things, so I got to give you credit for that. I'm thinking of switching gears a little bit on the responsibility side. My first wife would tell me, you're out there trying to save the world, And she just didn't get it, because when I'm out there doing stuff for people, I'm out of my head. And she said, that's great. But, you have 3 children, and her. And I couldn't wrap my brain around that, So obviously she's my ex-wife now, and I don't hold any resentments or animosity against her. She did the right thing. She's like, I'm done with this guy. And of course, I went off the res. So I come back in, and you guys, know this already, but I meet Shannon. We get married. And then she has the audacity to just say to me one time, you're out there saving the world. I'm like, you don't get it. When I'm out there, I'm out of my head. She said, what about me? This time I got it. Unfortunately, I got it pretty damn late in life. And then her line, something to the effect of, can you just pencil me in? And you guys know that, we have our date nights twice a week. And of course, we're retired. So poor lady has me all day long. But, I can't save the world. I don't know what made me think I could. It's not my responsibility to save the world. It's other people's problems are not my problem, but I would bring their problems home. And that's all I could think about and talk about. Well, so-and-so needs me. I'm God. I'm Bob the God, and too blind to see it. And there's consequences behind, not just taking care of my side of the street. And so now, I don't know who said it, but I take credit for the line. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I do what I can. And, my son, as you guys know, is a therapist. And we talk, I think probably 3, 4, 5 times a week. And he's not my shrink, but I gain a lot from him. And I asked him, how do you listen to all of these clients' issues all day long and then go home and be a normal guy? And Mark can speak for himself, but, and it's on one of our episodes. I don't remember the name of this, something like Cobwebs and Cigar Smoke or something, but he's like, I just leave it there. I go home and there's my wife, and now he's expecting a child. I'm finally going to be a grandpa so I can save some money on that book I was going to buy him, that how-to book, How to Make a Baby. I don't have to buy that. But I have to learn that because I am an alcoholic. I am sensitive and I am wrapped around the axles. And when I'm thinking that I'm being responsible by helping somebody else, I'm actually being irresponsible. And I'm not taking care of my side of the street. I'm trying to take care of their side of the street. And I need to learn from, thank God, I got the tribe here. I need to hear vicariously through you how you handle stuff. Because I listen when we go to meetings and we have our get-togethers. You guys will invariably share something, and then it resonates with me. And if it resonates with me, what's that saying? If the shoe fits, wear it. Yeah, that was my original saying. I don't know if you know that or not. I probably made that. So I even as a senior citizen, I am still learning how to stay on my side of the street and keep my side of the street clean. And it isn't easy because I feel like a born again alcoholic. I want to save the world. My brother's got problems. I got to get over there right now. And then I got to think what Ralph said. No is a complete sentence. Stop it. Just stop it. You're not God. You're not a savior. And by the way, you're being selfish by thinking that, it's not about me when it is about you. You're wanting to save somebody, and inside you're standing on a pedestal, and you're just as selfish as when you were drinking, and that hurts to think about that, but that's a fact.
Actually, I'm going to quote something that I heard today from Charlie. That's actually what you're going on. I can fix everything but me.
In the mic.
Oh, excuse me. Charlie, I'm literally quoting you from today. I can fix everything but me.
Brian, you got that from me.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I can fix everything but me.
I want to share this quick story talking about going out and saving the world. We can't save the world, but there's this one story about this guy who walks down to the beach, and along the beach, there's these millions of clams up on the shore. And he looks down there, and there's this one guy that's down there picking them up one at a time, throwing them in the ocean, back in the ocean. And he walks down there. He says, "Man, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm throwing them back in the ocean." He looks up, and as far as you can see, miles both ways, there's just clams on the shore of the ocean. He goes, "What difference does it make?" And he said, "It makes all the difference in the world to this one."
Yep. Got anything? Okay. All right. So, Andrea, kudos on that one. I'm going to say for the record that, Andrea, if you decide to rewrite this, I think that number 3's truth could be broke up into others. It's just my 2 cents. There was a lot to unpack on number 3. But anyway, she finishes with this daily practice. If you find yourself stuck, ask, what part of this situation can I take ownership of today? All right. Again, folks, if you're like wanting to read this, I'm going to put it in the show notes. All right. So now we're moving on to truth number 4 out of the 5 truths. Action is the proof of growth. And you have to, okay, yeah. All right. So here we go. Andrea writes, insight without action changes nothing. The 12 steps are designed to move us from awareness to transformation. Pause for a sec. I'm thinking of what you basically said earlier, Jeremy, faith without action, right? The 12 steps are designed to move us from awareness to transformation, from recognizing patterns to changing them, calling a sponsor, making an amends, helping another person in recovery. Those are the actions that breathe life into the steps. The more consistent those actions become, the less relapse feels like an ever-present threat, and the more recovery feels like a foundation. Yeah, I can read your mind, Joel. I'll read it again.
Oh, no. One more time.
Okay. Action, 4th truth, action is the proof of growth. Action is the proof of growth. I even like the heading. Insight without action changes nothing. The 12 steps are designed to move us from awareness to transformation, from recognizing patterns to changing them, calling a sponsor, making an amends, helping another person in recovery. Those are the actions that breathe life into the steps. The more consistent those actions become, the less relapse feels like an ever-present threat, and the more recovery feels like a foundation. OpenMic.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that one. There's a phrase that I heard early on in sobriety, and it really helped break things down and simplify things for me. And it is, I have to act myself into a new way of thinking instead of trying to think myself into a new way of acting. If I'm going to get any sort of sustained recovery, sustained sobriety, sustained relationship with a higher power of my understanding, I have to do things that are abnormal to me, because up to the point that I get into recovery, I'm living my life in ways that seem normal to me, but are probably abnormal to the rest of, the normie society. And I have to have that willingness when I come into the program to try a different way of life. And that my alcoholism and my old way of thinking is going to be fighting against me every step of the way. But I have to, again, act myself into that new way of thinking. I have to take the actions necessary to retrain my brain into understanding that the actions that I'm currently taking that feel really uncomfortable right now are like, my feeling towards those are going to change over time if I just continue with the action. Whenever we try something new, if it's something that we've never done before, it's going to feel really abnormal to us. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel dangerous even, things like that. But the more we do those things, the more routine they become. So that's kind of what I got from that. Action is, and this is a program of action. It talks about in the big book, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but like self-knowledge is not going to do me a damn bit of good if I don't take the action to follow up my newfound insight of myself. So
well said.
Yeah, well, very well said. And that's it. The action, right? We talk all the time about exactly what Joel said. This is a program of action. And so when we had a conversation with somebody, it could have been somebody in this room actually, but you go to if you're a prison guy, you go to the prison, or if you're a treatment guy, you go to a treatment center. And inevitably there's always the guy in that setting that is trying to tell everyone else in there what they should do to either stay out of prison or get sober and stay out of a treatment setting, right? Let's first dissect and say, let's just take the action that I need to take to work on me. So that's the first thing, right? So the second thing being is, I'm breaking this whole action thing down in that because there's so many people that end up coming through the correctional system to get sober or through the treatment system to get sober, right? I'm out there drinking and using, and I'm going to make a decision. I don't have an intention, because if I have an intention to not go steal something, or I have an intention to go to get sober, then I'm still going to have that intention tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But if I make a decision and I follow that decision with action, then I go to a treatment center, then I have taken action. And now I'm in that treatment center. Well, now I have made a decision to stay, and I'm taking that action, and I'm staying, and I'm listening to what the counselors are telling me, and I'm doing the things that they're asking me to do, and I'm starting to get some days clean under my belt. Well, now I'm 3, 4, 5 days, or if you're going to a 30, 60, 90-day inpatient facility, now I'm 30, 60, 90 days clean. Well, I've taken that action. Well, now it's time for me to leave. What do I have to do? I have to take an action.
You got to get a plan and go through with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can have all kinds of intentions when I'm in that treatment center. When I get out of here, I'm going to go to a meeting. I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to do something different with my life. But unless I make a decision and I follow that decision with action, then I'm going to be doing the exact same thing I was doing 30 days ago, 60 days ago, and 90 days ago. Doesn't matter what my intentions are. Intentions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and I don't want to smell yours. Right?
Okay.
But a decision that is followed by action can be a very powerful choice and very powerful step in changing my life one day at a time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can attest to that because I think I'm a living example of sometime around 2000 going to the Bridgeway for a few days and then going to their IOP and getting kicked out of it. When I got kicked out of that, I had a lot more self-awareness about the fact that I had a disease and I was so self-aware, and I thought, well, yeah, but I'll go to AA, but I'm going to do AA light. I'll just read the steps on the wall. Don't need to, all these suggestions they're giving me. I'm not really down for that, but I can do this thing on my own.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of action behind anything. It was all intentions. And it held up for a couple of weeks, and I was right back out. And of course, my alcoholism, my addiction was telling me, well, AA doesn't work. Treatment centers don't work because obviously they didn't work for you. Well, it's because I wasn't putting 100% into it. So, yeah, let me just, for anybody out there that's considering treatment and AA and stuff, I don't think giving it a 50% effort is going to yield you much results. You have to do that action and take those suggestions and really do some work. It's not like hard physical back-breaking type of work, but it's work on yourself. And, when somebody gives you a suggestion that's got some sobriety, I highly suggest that you take that, take their advice to heart. And it usually involves doing some kind of action. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's all about action, really. The whole foundation of it for a newcomer is getting used to doing that action and not just having an intention and, thinking that self-knowledge is going to get you out of it, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked it up, definition of action. And the simplest definition of it is to do. And, I spent a lot of time praying to get sober, reading books, self-help tapes, you name it. I spent thousands of dollars to try to figure out a way to do it, but I just never did it. I thought about it a lot. I talked about it a lot. I never did it. So the other definition is a thing that is done and not merely thought or spoken of. So I got sober when I took action, when I did it instead of talking about it, But my personal experience with this is how I learned the difference in what really action was for me, and how important it is. Was I'm at this church and I'm down at the altar. It's a weekday. I mean, they're working. The church is vacant other than the office personnel, and I'm down there at the altar and I'm begging God to take that life away from me. I'm begging God to take the drinks and the drugs away from me. And I get up, I'm in a fetal position in one of the pews, and I'm just crying my eyes out, and I'm just begging him, because I'd heard people my whole life say, if you'll come down here and you give your life to Jesus, he'll change you forever and you'll never be the same, and you'll be happy and you'll have eternal water and life. And, and I'm like, I want that, but I never got that. And I did it several times, and I'm down there doing it with, and I get up from there, and nothing changes. And I come to this program, and my sponsor, I talked to him, and he said, if you make it home tonight without a drink or a drug, get on your knees and say thank you. And I let him know right then and there. I said, man, I have tried that. I wish it worked for me. I'm glad it works for you, and I'm happy for you. And I wished it worked for me, but it doesn't. And I've given it my all many times. I wish it did. And he said, do it anyway. So I did it anyway. Then I remember one day I'm driving to work, and I had 7 days of sobriety, and I realized in that moment that there was something working in my life that wasn't working in my life 7 days ago. So what was the difference in the prayer that I said when I meant it with every fiber of my being, and the difference in that prayer and saying a prayer and have absolutely no faith that it was going to work at all? The difference was the action I took after the prayer. I'm begging God to take it away from me, and I get up off my knees and I go out to the truck and I light a joint and I drive down to the liquor store, and I expect my life to change. And it don't work that way.
Right.
And I come in here and I have no faith it's going to work, but I don't pick up a drink one day at a time, and my life starts to change. We talk about change, we want to change. Everybody, we seem to strive for change, but change is inevitable. I will change sitting on the couch watching TV. I'm going to change. That doesn't bring about happiness. What brings about happiness is progress. Make myself a little bit better today than I was yesterday. Take some action to make myself a better man today than I was yesterday. And that brings me happiness, not change. I can change for the worse.
Yeah.
But I got to make progress. I look at my life, I'm like a plant. I'm either growing or I'm dying.
That's right.
That's just me. And when I'm dying, I'm miserable. When I'm growing, I'm happy.
That's right. Yeah, good work.
Speaking of action, and when you were saying, suggestions, because this is a program, it's suggested.
Suggestive only.
But there is something in Daily Reflections for December 1st. It says suggested steps. I'm going to skip down to the bottom because it comes out of the 12 and 12. It says, I remember my sponsor answered when I told him that the steps were suggested. He replied that they are suggested in the same way that if you jump out of an airplane with a parachute, it is suggested that you pull the ripcord to save your life. He pointed out that was suggested. I practiced the 12 steps if I wanted to save my life. So I do remember the daily that I have a whole program of recovery based on all 12 of the suggested steps. It just caught my eye because I remember that. I remember reading that a long time ago, and it's something I live my life by. Yeah, it may be suggested, but guess what? You You want to save your life? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is suggested.
Pull that ripcord, baby.
And, hope the parachute comes out because if Bob backed it, you're screwed.
I have a story for another day.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I heard a guy say one time at Springtime in the Ozarks, he said, the steps are meant to be suggestive only, but they're not.
Yep.
All right. So before we move on to the last one, I just want to leave a thought with you on this number 4, this fourth truth. Qui dicit docet. I say it again. Qui dicit docet is Latin for he who teaches learns. So, we're in this recovery program, and let me make sure I'm not jumping ahead. Okay. We're in this recovery program, and Joe, I think you were, kind of spot on. We were talking about the comfort zone, getting out of the comfort zone. And as we get out of that comfort zone and we follow the suggestions that are not suggestions, we start to change. And as we teach these, I'll give Andrew the credit for the word truths here in this case. As we teach these truths to other people, we ourselves are learning. So, qui dicit docet, he who teaches learns. Andrew, you can actually use that and take credit for it if you want. All right. The fifth. Oh, by the way, she leaves the truth, fourth truth, with this daily practice. Pick one principle each morning: honesty, willingness, humility, gratitude as examples, and focus on living it that day. Good word. Good word. In fact, that's one of the tools I share with some of the folks that I work with. All right. So the final truth. When the steps become a way of life. And we kind of touched on this before, so let's see where this goes. At some point, the steps stop being something you do and become something you are. That's interesting. Okay. Working the steps in recovery means choosing integrity even when no one's watching. It means admitting mistakes quickly, forgiving often, and staying open to growth. It's realizing that recovery isn't about perfection. It's about progress, humility, and daily recommitment. True step work changes how we live, love, and lead. It transforms recovery from survival into purpose. Open mic.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
How do you add on to that? Just well said.
Yeah, she did a really great job of explaining that, right? It's just, it has to become your, I think, okay, so I can't add on to that, but it was told to me early on that anything that I put in front of my sobriety, I will lose. And that is true. But I also live the 12 steps on a daily basis in my life. Some days better than other days. Some days I do it kicking and screaming. Some days I do steps 1, 2, 3. I go back to 1. I go 1, 2, 3. I go back to 1. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back to 2. It's this constant dance on some days, right? Because some days I'm just pissed off, right? But even though I live the 12 steps, I still live a life. And I do want to caveat that, right? Because I think that if I'm reading that, it's like, okay, well, if the 12 steps are my life, like what does the rest of my life look like? Right. And that's what I thought whenever I came in here and somebody's telling me anything that I put in front of my sobriety, I'm going to lose. Okay, well, that means that every time that there's a meeting that I've got to be there. That's just not true. Right. Well, we're fortunate that we're in an area where there are multiple meetings. And if that particular meeting doesn't work out with my schedule, I can always go to another meeting. Right. So I'm still living the steps. Right. But I just may not be going to the meeting that I normally go to. If my sponsor is not available, then I can always pick up the phone and call somebody else. Right. So I say all that to say that I got sober to live life. And so I'm going to live the 12 steps, but I'm also going to live my life, and I'm going to enjoy my family, and I'm going to enjoy my friends, and I'm going to enjoy my time that I have while I'm still living the 12 steps. It's just that looks different now than it did when I first got sober.
Yeah, that's right.
I wish I could sing, Jeremy really got me thinking about something, what does my life look like working the steps? And you hear people say all the time, read between the lines. Well, my life in sobriety is between the steps, and every once in a while I incorporate those steps into my life. And sometimes I do a good job of it. Sometimes I do a horrible job with it, but I'm doing my best. And I got a guy that works for me, and I said that to him one day, because he did something. He wasn't pleased with the results. I said, well, you did your best. He said, no, I didn't. I can do better. I said, no, but you did your best today. And he didn't get it because he's not in the program. He said, no, I can do better. And he doesn't get into it. He doesn't get what I'm saying. My analogy for that is when I go play golf, okay, I do my best every time I go. I may shoot in the 70s. I may shoot in the 80s, 90s, 100. Okay. But I still did my best every time. Sometimes my best looks fabulous. Sometimes my best doesn't look so hot, but it's still all I got in that moment. So,
yeah. We're really getting close to wrap up. Pat, did you want to say anything?
Of the fifth truth that was read, of the things that were in that passage, the most important thing to me personally is that I have to remain willing or remain open to growth. Because if I don't maintain that willingness to grow, if I don't maintain willingness to identify and see things that are wrong in me and things that I can potentially improve upon, then I have completely shut myself off from the program. Before getting into the program and before getting sober, I was not open and willing to grow because my ego was in control. And I didn't really believe that I was doing anything wrong. And the difference today and the difference with me really kind of living the 12 steps and the traditions and the principles is that I understand today that I am nowhere near perfect and I never will be. But I can only continue to grow forward if I maintain that spiritual fitness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, we have these epiphanies along the way. And, when we're looking at this fifth truth, when the steps become a way of life. So, we know that one of the pillars of our recovery is to get a sponsor. And so, get a sponsor. Well, okay, great. Where's the checklist? Where's the checklist on what I'm supposed to get in a sponsor? I mean, you just every meeting we hear that, you got to get a sponsor. So if I'm looking at this fifth truth, when the steps become a way of life, and I hear this a few times, it's only going to be a few meetings before I'm listening to people talk. And because every single alcoholic, addict, I don't care if it's drugs or whatever label you want to put on it, we have learned to be master bullshitters. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm listening to somebody, blowing smoke up my butt, I can tell right away I don't want that guy to be my sponsor. If I hear a guy that says, I'm trying to get my head together, whatever, okay, that guy's just as new as I am. Probably not a good idea to pick that guy as a sponsor. But if I hear wisdom coming out of somebody's face consistently, then I can see that they are living the steps. They're not just doing them because when we come in the program, I'm doing, you tell me to do the steps, I'll do the steps. But I'm not living them because I don't understand this way of life yet. But once I understand this way of life, then you can tell me by the fruits, you can tell by the fruits of my labor that I'm actually working a recovery program. All right. So you're going to see me in a meeting, and then you're going to see me hanging out, doing something. And I'm the same guy in the meeting that I am outside the meeting. You're like, you know what? This guy's walking the walk. That's how I know, who I want to have as a sponsor. Well, it's just a litmus test. But even as we grow, like you said, Joel, we're never going to be perfect. We have these epiphanies along the way. Even though we're living it, we're having epiphanies. I mean, this is so rare that I'm the oldest guy in the room. So rare. I never thought that day was coming. But even as the oldest guy in the room, I am still learning. And if I stop learning, then I'm that plant you talked about, Charlie. I'm either growing or I'm dying. And I don't want to go backwards. I've been backwards. I know what that looks like. I don't want to do it. I'll go through the struggles I have today because I have you guys, my higher power, my battle buddy to help me get through this stuff. But I want to live these steps today because, as my sponsor says, this is the best I have ever lived, even in my worst days. All right. So any other thoughts before we move into wrap up?
I got one more. So we talk about this being a spiritual program. Spiritual principles are universal. They're all throughout the universe. And one way we were talking earlier about learning, and so there are 3 basic steps to learning. Okay. And they're exactly the way the 12 steps are. And those 3 steps are, the first step is the acquisition of knowledge. Okay. And so we come in this program, we learn the steps. We read them when we learn them. The second phase of learning is to the application of that knowledge. And we do that by working the steps. And then the third step of learning is to teach it to somebody else, to give it away. And that's what the 12th step is all about. So that's what so when we're working the 12 steps, we are learning.
All right. Any other thoughts? Okay. So she, Andrea, good job with this. She continues on with how to start working the steps in recovery. I'm definitely not going to get into that, but this is going to be in the show notes for the listening audience. But she does also say why step work. And she says it strengthens long-term sobriety, creating accountability, building emotional resilience, providing structure and purpose, encouraging service, all the things that we kind of talked about with these 5 truths. So I'll have this in the show notes for the listening audience out there, folks. And I want to just step back for a sec. Top of the dome, anybody got any closing thoughts they want to share that they maybe didn't have earlier? Thoughts going on in the room? Pat? Okay. All right, so let me pull up my script. Yes, folks, I do not have this memorized. All right, so that's, not yet. Guys, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming to do this. And with always, we hope to bring hope to the hurting. That's our goal. So, folks, if you're out there and you're learning something, something new, whatever, hey, remember we've got the Facebook page up now. It's very fledgling, very new. It's only a couple of weeks old, but feel free to go on there, join it, be a member, whatever. Everything we do is free. Obviously, there's no subscription necessary. But I encourage you to go there because, like, even social media has gotten out of control now. That app next door, which I used to look at every day, there's so much junk out there. I can't even stand reading it. So if you go to the Facebook page, the contributors on there, everything is positive, whether they're funny, they're memes, they're thoughts for the day, they're copy and paste from the daily reflection, or as Bill sees it or something, whatever. The contributions there are all positive. So I would encourage you to go there, try to get the Gigo on. Remember the Gigo, guys? Garbage in, garbage out. or God in or God out, so, I would try to emphasize that a little bit to you. All right. So that's a wrap on today's show. What say you on today's topic? Leave your thoughts and comments on shoutoutfromthepit.com. And remember, if you want to feel good about yourself, go out and do something for someone else. And finally, as always, you're not alone. If no one's told you they love you today, we love you. Amen. God bless you and have an outstanding American day. This is Bob the Old Rucker. Peace out.